Hey, what's up, Toby? We made it another week.
Hey, buddy.
It's
Good
the
to see you.
it's the Process It podcast.
Indeed, it is. Glad
Now
to be here with you.
now on Mondays, Monday morning,
Now we're on
7
Mondays.
Eastern.
Oh,
Ready
I'm
for
so grateful that you get up early enough to post that at 7
oh yeah,
Eastern.
it's 7 Eastern. What is that like? That's like 4 your time?
I think it's like 2 a.m. My body
To-
thinks.
Toby's Toby's in the Pacific time zone. I want to hit on our topic today. It comes
Yeah.
out of just this idea of one piece flow, which is from the
Mhm.
manufacturing side. Uh, Peter Drucker, Deming, a lot of the Toyota kind of put in a lot of work in manufacturing and moving stuff one piece flow. Now, knowledge work is anything but. It's many piece stress is what so it really is.
Uh, that's right.
But what I wanted to talk about today is in knowledge work, there is a
Mm.
sense of judgment with the systems that we're in. And
Oh,
that's what I wanted
okay.
to noodle on today, because I do
Yeah.
think that that mental burden,
Mm.
because our output is greatly determined by the machinery that is not the systems that we work in, but our brains and bodies. And so
Yeah.
how does judgment or judgmental system design play into process step? That's the topic.
I love this, Chris. I pause for a second. I think back to some of our earlier industrialization
Yeah.
and what first factory floors looked like.
Yep.
Uh, there's a there's a series on Netflix called Enola Holmes
Okay.
with Bobby Brown and um, anyway, it's on its third iteration, and in it are these matchstick women, these young girls that go in and fill boxes of matchbooks, and all they do is stand there all day and
Yep.
fill matchbooks with fresh matches. And I thought, they're doing it's one person,
Yep.
so many units of output.
Yep.
Um, and that feels very Dickensian,
Yeah.
you know. But then we had the Henry Ford and this idea of like starting with the basic pieces and it moves
Yep.
down an assembly line and each person applies
Yep.
their individual components and performs their tasks.
Yep.
And so in that world, the judgment seemed fairly clear, like you were or were not at work
Yep.
and you played your part in assembling 10 cars for the day or
Yep.
not.
Yep.
Mm. I kind of wonder on this topic of judgment, is it that we just don't even know what is feasible in a day or what's expected of us? As you bring up the topic, I'm really intrigued to hear where this comes from and where it goes because
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is there's so much ambiguity in knowledge work.
Yes.
Some of us bridle under the TPS reports are due every
Yep.
Thursday, and yet that gives us a sense of what is expected to be completed, right?
Yep. Uh,
So delve
yeah.
into judgment. I'd
One
love
of
to
the
hear.
things I've been reading, Cal Newport, which is a
Yeah.
great author on productivity, but he has a book called A World Without Email.
Mm,
And
okay.
email is a very judgment producing system that we have basically have created for ourselves, because it matches more how we want to communicate in a small tribe, meaning get the information out, collect it among the tribe so you can go and kill the lion on the savannah or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Whereas prior to that, I mean, if not going back very far into the 1900s, which, we know well,
Yeah.
you would, if you needed to talk to a colleague, you would go to their office because everybody had offices back then. And oftentimes they weren't there because they were in a meeting. So then you left them a Post-it note. And
Yes.
then when they needed to get back to you, they needed to go to your office. You weren't there, and you played this whack-a-mole note tag back and forth between two offices. And
Yeah.
so fast forward to email, which when I was my first year in college, that was like people would stay up till 2 a.m. just sending emails back and forth because it was so novel. It was fascinating. But fast forward email and that asynchronous workflow of getting
Yeah.
the stress off of my plate and sending that stress work to someone else, meaning you don't have all the information, please send me blah, 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 blah. And so that's kind of why I've been noodling on this whole judgment inducing systems, which produce basically not better throughput, meaning I didn't introduce friction into the system or into my communication and saying, hey, does Toby have everything that he needs? And can I answer that in an email?
Yeah.
Or internally, do we even need an email? Or could you do it in some sort of ticketing system?
Yeah. Talk to me about, there's judgment, the assessment before we send a message, knowing we're not going to have immediate feedback.
Yep.
So on one level, I hear you talking about we're making a best assessment. We're making
Yep.
our best guess at how much information's enough to move this body of work forward. Does that, I had initially thought more than just the judgment of how much is enough, also
Oh, for sure.
is successful. Am I being effective might be the angle of judgment you were.
Yeah. So we can turn on that. We could turn on this in a lot of ways. I think email is judgmental just because you show up and you don't think, man, if only I had more emails to handle today. Like that's,
Yeah.
so
Right.
it has this stress inducing component to it. But the other part is like, am I effective? Meaning my manager, just like on the factory lines, you could see those matchsticks coming through or the cars coming through.
Right.
Oftentimes management sets up a system of reporting based on throughput that may or may not be effective.
Yeah.
And so you're in this stress induced judgmental system, and one of our quotes here is bad process kills good people.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't know if we're in a bad process because it's our nature oftentimes, unless you're a masochist, to say, oh, I was wrong. Right. And we don't think, is it really me? Because the last 4 people in my position have got fired or downsized or whatever. At some point that fails, it ceases to become a human problem and it becomes a process problem.
It's an interesting question about how much of it is the business, how much of it is the process, how much of it is the individual.
Yeah.
We work in the Monday.com ecosystem, and last week they announced something like a 20% workforce reduction.
Yep.
Which has become arguably the single most frequently pulled lever of organizations for managing their financial performance. They're by no means unique in this day and age.
Nope.
And I've watched in the Portland area dozens of companies literally shedding thousands of people.
Yep.
Because they weren't minding the health of the business.
Yep.
And I think that what we're getting at is, in this case, it's either a failure to judge.
Yep.
They're not looking at things, or it's a lack of judgment.
Yep.
Meaning that they're making choices for which they don't understand the consequences.
Yeah.
Or simply an inability to judge.
Yeah.
So even when presented with all the facts, maybe they're not able to arrive at decisions that promote the long-term health. So have we gone too far? Do we need to go back and just get rid of all of our electronic crap and start hand assembling in little plants again?
Well,
what role does judgment play in the world of healthy process? What's the gap here that
I think, we've talked about this before, but I think just the psychological safety, regardless of what the output is.
Okay.
Right. So like in a manufacturing company, if you get in trouble by bringing up waste, then you hide waste.
Yeah.
Right. Like you hide it, you make excuses for it. Now the problem is waste in manufacturing is right in front of you. It's right out there. Yes. Whereas in knowledge work, there's times where you can mail it in for a day or a week or months or quarters, even sometimes.
Right.
And so that lack of safety because you'll be judged based on bringing up something good or bad. And I
Mhm.
think, last week we were talking about just mindfulness, which is
Yeah.
one of the tenets of mindfulness is being non-judgmental and just being objective of how it comes in. Right.
Yeah.
So, that, and practically, if we were to talk about email, right, that would be, oh man, I got 500 unread emails, right? That would be a judgmental thought, right? Whereas, and some of it's just tone, right? Which is like, oh, I have 500 emails. Like that is like, and the
It's observation
one,
versus
yeah,
an emotional
correct.
response.
And
Yeah.
one leads to, uh, what Martin Seligman would say is like learned helplessness.
Mhm.
The other leads could lead to innovation in that email space, right? Like, why
Yeah.
do I, right?
Yeah.
Can I fix that system in order for it to support me versus just demoralize me? And I bring up email because, that meeting could have been solved with an email, that email could have been solved with a meeting. Like, we've talked about that as well.
Yeah. A lot of chicken and egg in that. I feel like, objectively, I feel like we spend a enormous amount of time in sessions just trying to understand what the intentions are.
Yeah.
Why are we doing something? What's to be done? And then what's the outcome?
Yep.
Um, I was reading an article in this week's Atlantic talking
Mhm.
about the decline of readership,
Yep.
and not readership specifically of that magazine, but that people in our country read less.
Yep.
And what we read is more pulp fiction or than than the generations before us.
Yep.
And it struck me as timely as literally thousands of people are flocking every day to see the Odyssey on film
Yep.
and may not even know who wrote it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, Christopher Nolan, clearly.
Chris.
Um, for those of yeah. So yeah, and I think that it's kind of interesting, and it's that this Atlantic article is just pointing to some of the commentary that was introduced with the advent of television
Yeah. Yeah.
and the decline in readership of daily newspapers.
Yep.
And prior to that,
Yep.
literacy was defined not by reading of newspapers, but by engaging in
Yep.
periodicals
Yeah. Yeah.
and deep thought. And so we are in this strange place where people are increasingly, engaged in a digital workforce model of some kind. Their
Yep.
work goes into and comes out of computers, surrounded by endless conversations about what the hell am I supposed to be doing
Yep.
and what's expected. Um, so it does get difficult to trying to fathom this out. There's not a little Instagram reel that's going to pop up.
Yeah.
There's plenty to distract us, but nothing to pop up and clarify what good enough looks like.
Yeah.
Um,
What's interesting is just a non-judgmental approach. If you attack it in that way, you're
yeah.
much more likely to use your creative juices to solve a problem.
If you can stay in that non-judgmental space.
If you can stay in the non-judgmental space, right? And
Yeah.
so like
Love,
I
well,
just think about how many processes I've been
yeah.
in that have been judgmental, right?
Mm,
In a way, and it does not induce innovation or human creativity,
yeah.
right? It induces almost like two kind of bipolar things, which is shrink as a human and in your confidence,
Mm,
or grow in kind of that anger like area. Like there's almost like two human responses. It's either shrinking or just becoming overly grandiose in your defense of
yeah.
CYA.
Yeah. Yeah. That grandiose has layers of frustration in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a novel challenge.
Yeah.
Because I don't think processes get less complex from here,
No.
right? Um, and I don't feel like there's anything that's suggesting we're going to make a radical departure from more interruptions, you know.
Yeah.
Um, the incessant knocking at the door of how are you using AI
Yep.
today?
Yep.
What flavor of AI did you sprinkle on your breakfast cereal? And it's not going to change. And so this notion of judgment, I think, kind of leads us to this place of recognizing that ambiguity is increasing and not decreasing. It's really incumbent on us to start to think about how do we sit in a space that we're comfortable with,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
right?
And yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting with AI because even in the usage of AI, like we're all behind whether we really are or not because of the perception of what this could be, right?
Yeah. That's a really interesting question. Am I where I should be relative to the advent of a new
Yeah,
technology?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And how do you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've often felt myself to be at the beginning of the mass adopters rather
yeah.
than an early adopter.
Yep.
When I've leaned into technology earlier, I've felt like it was a solution in search of a problem,
Yeah.
which is typically how new technologies show up. Unless we're
Yep.
disrupting an industry,
Yep.
technology in particular shows up and the use case isn't always abundantly clear.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That's the selling part that's really required with technology is why in the hell would I use it? And if so,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do I get value? Um, so this is a great notion on judgment. AI is simply the latest in a series of
Yep.
leaps forward. Um, well, so are there some practices that
The
you've been pondering to try to keep your judgment and self-judgment and objective perspective of the workload in check?
Yeah, there's two things that I've kind of been focusing on is like getting up, like I work from home, right? I don't really interact with people. I could stay in my desk. I could stay in, I mean, IRL, as the kids would say in real life.
The,
Um, they probably don't even say that anymore. That's like how behind I am. Anyway,
the
um,
35 and 40-year-old kids say that, right?
but I've been getting up and walking more like during the day. I
Yeah,
just try to like, I mean, back in the
that's great.
day, pre-COVID, we would actually walk to meeting rooms and we would hang out and we would, afterwards, like the meetings weren't as compressed because you couldn't have them back to back. And so I've been
Totally.
walking. The other thing that this book talks about, by Cal Newport is really around, you can't just go and say, "Hey, look, I'm going to only answer my emails on at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m." Like you just literally can't do that. You'll get crushed. But what you can do is you can not drop anything,
Hmm.
not tell anyone, and then answer your emails at 10 and 4, right? And obviously it's going to depend on what your cadence is.
Yeah.
But basically his point is you
Hmm.
really have to make a physical decision to increase the friction of getting into an application, right? Be it your email or your workflow system or whatever. You have to
Yeah.
build in that friction. Then in building in that friction, you have to not drop balls, right? So you have to almost collect everything that your boss or your boss's boss or boss's boss or CEO wants. You have to capture all of that and you have to constantly deliver and deliver at a higher throughput, which you can because you're less distracted. And so that's the take. That's really the take of this book, and I think it's really wise direction.
Yeah. Well, you'd mentioned ticketing system at the outset.
Yeah.
Yeah. That idea of a first in, first out
Yep.
is very much at the heart of, one attempt to manage um, exorbitant workflows,
Yeah.
whether it's IT support requests or
Yep.
any of the shared functions. That's where we usually see ticketing
Yeah.
systems.
And
Uh,
one of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Corey Blumenfield was like, just
yeah.
because it's a ticket doesn't mean that it's of priority. Like
Right.
my
That's a different.
favorite, my favorite ticket that I've seen in my career was by a director of like the customer service, like director level, right? His
Yeah.
people were off. He got a critical ticket. The TV or the or whatever wasn't working. And his response was not plugged in, worked fine.
Nice.
And so like
Well,
the funny part about that is like, was that worth his time? No, it was not.
was it a showstopper for the users? Absolutely.
Absolutely. But like, plug the damn thing in.
Yeah. It's true. I love that.
So
Well, we'll
said,
come back to this. I think.
yeah,
I think it's a topic that you've sparked today.
I think the key is like we own our work.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be judgmental about it. Negative, positive, either. We can just, chop wood, carry water.
Okay. I like that aspiration.
Yep. Thanks, man.
All right. See you,
See you
buddy.
next week.
Bye.